Super weapons of the Tau are what we'll look at today. The Tau were a late starter. They're one of the youngest races in 40k. As you would expect at this vintage, they have a lot of weapons they try to deploy and develop. Some work, some fail. We're going to go over a range of these weapons in the video. Some work like a beauty, some fall apart, but all have the potential to help and refine the Tau cause. Let's begin. In attempts to drain stars of energy, many suns had been accidentally sent into supernova. Thus far, the Earthcast had failed to collect this resource, and travel into these regions is unadvised. Since failing at fuel collection, the Earthcast are experimenting with a sun killer weapon to devastate enemy systems, but thus far, all solutions have proven too unwieldy. Next up, Black Leviathan. The Earthcast work partly well together, following their tribal guides through the tombs, deep down amongst ancient fissures and uncovered graves with moulding bones and shattered statues. These were paths known only to the tribesmen and their elders, marked by scouts who had paid for the knowledge with their lives. It took many hours to reach the lowermost point, where the warrens through the rocky earth merged with the tectonic margin hidden beneath Port Mnar. The Earthcast surveyors had surmised the existence of this fault from orbit when they first prepared for the war on Agralan, but reaching it had needed the help of the tribes. The tribes had not been willing to give it, and so O'Mayan had been dispatched to do this work, and the web had first been spun. The Earthcast workers were squat and powerful, with heavy hands and muscles made for labour. They hauled with them an explosive charge, sometimes on wheels, sometimes lowered by ropes, finally carried on their shoulders like a steel coffin. The guides who had led them did not know for sure what it was, but they could guess. In the infernal heat and the dull glow of the magma-heated rocks, the Earthcast detail unloaded the charge and set it with a timer of 12 hours. They wedged it into a fissure in the rocks, a place where the volcanic heat of Briseus's core met the stony mantle. They made their final checks, and the team leader announced their work was done. The guides were killed with the efficiency on which the cast prided themselves. Each Tau had a pistol concealed in his coveralls and put a single pulse round through the back of each guide's head. The guides had guessed this too, for if they were captured alive, they might be forced to divulge the location of the bomb and put the whole operation in danger. They did not struggle or complain. They are doing their duty to their tribes, to the family who had raised them and loved them, even when the cold hand of the Imperium had tried to crush out all that made the people of Briseus who they were. Better to die with their mark, showing their work was complete, than live on another day as the chattels of the Imperium. When the last corpse hit the ground, the Tau began the return journey towards the surface. They made good pace, because in 12 hours there would be no surface to reach. The Firecast can destroy, said O'Mayan. The Watercast functionaries diligently recorded his words. The Earthcast can build, and the Aircast can take us amongst the stars. The Ethereals can unite us in one glorious whole, a single mind and a single purpose, but only the Watercast can bring about such beauty. The tectonic charges laid by the Earthcast had detonated some time before. The sequence of events, of one landmass moving against another, was as carefully planned as the chain of cause and effect that had seen the Space Marines defeated and the tribes of Briseus broken. Now the sequence reached the surface. Port Mnar lurched and the first buildings fell. The burning scars left by the Imperial bombardment blossomed into flame again, and the tallest structures toppled. The spires around the Parliament itself, the towers of the Generatorium. 1,000 disasters unfolded at once. Those who had not left the city already perished in their thousands. Half the city rose up like a sea monster from an ocean, like the Black Leviathan, with which the Jade Dragons were so usefully obsessed. The other half sank as if under an enormous weight. The fissure opened. A great black slash ripped across the city, and hundreds of buildings vanished, crumbling to dust and pitching into the depths. The fissure reached the spaceport, and one of the landing pads was torn in half. Control buildings falling, explosives erupting where the underground fuel tanks were breached. It took almost an hour to unfold. The fault line under the city opened up, and the full heart of Port Mnar vanished, falling into the hole. The rest devastated more thoroughly than 100 Imperial bombardments could manage. The spaceports was completely destroyed. Only burning islands of rock Crete remained between a crazed pattern of crevices. Ambassador O'Mayan watched till it all had nearly completed, not speaking or even blinking, as the greater good was done before his eyes. When it was done, and only the stubbornly burning fires still moved, O'Mayan turned to the gathering assembled at the back of the bridge. The elders of Briseus' tribes had watched in silence, stunned by the enormity of destruction. "It is done," said O'Mayan. "You are free of the Tau Empire. Your people will no longer serve as pawns of the Imperium." And just listening back to it, let me amend what I just said there. He says, "You are free members of the Tau Empire. Your people will no longer serve as pawns of the Imperium, serving them to maintain a foothold for their own war on Agrellan. You finally have the liberty to seek out the greater good. The crew have prepared berths for you on board for the time being, but soon you will rejoin your people and lead them in the old ways again, as nomads and tribes of Briseus, honouring the ancient traditions you preserved for so long." Aircast crew began leading the elders off the bridge towards the heart of the ship. One did not move, the bone render elder, and he stepped forward at the aircast, tried to direct him away. "Speak the truth, alien," said the bone render. "Will any of us leave the ship?" Two Firecast warriors stepped in front of O'Mayan, pulse carbines in hand. The bone render did not argue further and joined his fellow elders as they were escorted off the bridge. O'Mayan waved a hand, and the view screen shifted to show the wide view of Briseus and Agrellan hanging behind it. He was done with this world. A compliance detail would land there soon with Watercast peoples of Briseus. The Watercast were social engineers, and the Finecast enforcers, to make something useful out of the displaced peoples of the planet. That was beneath O'Mayan's concern. There were many other worlds, other species on whom to do his work and leave his legacy, other worlds on which the greater good could be pursued. Perhaps he could even start to believe in it. Next we pop in with the crystalline world. The planet-sized polygon known as Port is especially pleasing to the aesthetically minded aircast who live in the floating hab pods and orbital stations above it. The planet is a giant mineral structure, so close to true transparency it seems to glow with lambent starlight. Unable to resist the challenge, Lub Growl's Earthcast used planar tectonics to sheathe the thin meteorite crust of Port away, leaving behind only a geometrically perfect surface. In doing so, they have transformed it from a shattered maze of crystal into a shimmering polygonal testament to the power of the Tau Empire. The world's orbital stations are fashioned in shapes sympathetic to Port itself, revolving around their beautiful core world like electrons around some titanic nucleus. And finally, in a conversation between Arnsheo and Sherstrike, it's implied that the Tau are working on their counter to the Astartes. My peers and I shall determine just how that is to be done before the matter is taken to an elemental council. I should think even a 64 Thar Hasiro should be a good start, should we be able to find that many monarchs of the requisite potential. It will take at least a few generations for them to yield results, of course, but upon the culmination of the process, we'll have an army like no other in the galaxy. It will be my legacy to the Tau Var. And if you like this video on the Tau, check out this one, see what you think to it.